Hi everyone, this is Neil Writer, consultant audiologist and director of ClearWax. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. And here we have a young patient, age 9, who attended alongside their father on an emergency appointment after their father had contacted us this morning. They were concerned that yesterday at school their son had been poking inside their ear using the end of a crayon, and lo and behold, as you can see, there's something in there. It doesn't really identify itself as a crayon at the moment, but given its colour, we can safely assume that it is some part of a crayon. I've just reached out for the Zollner suction tube to perform microsuction. It can sometimes be difficult to perform microsuction on an object like this, which is very flat surfaced or spherical, but fortunately I was able to get a good suction grip. We're just having a good examination of that. And I thought that's all that was going to be inside this patient's ear, but how wrong was I? This patient in total had 5 crayon tip ends lodged in the ear, and fortunately there's no long-term damage, there's no perforation of this patient's eardrum, so they were very lucky on this case. Here's another piece that snapped off, which I was able to remove without much difficulty.
I mean, I understand it's a young lad, you know, it's a kid. 5 crayon tips. Surely at 1 or 2 you just think, let's call this a day, that they're in there now, let's not add to it. Baffling.
Now we've got this long crayon tip at the floor of the ear canal, this dark green one, which was a bit difficult to remove. At this stage it was difficult to use forceps, for example, because it wasn't really something for me to grab onto, and when you grab onto something spherical with forceps you do run the risk of almost losing the grip you have and forcing it further in. But so I decided to try and suction it at first. Again, when we're performing the suction, we've got to be careful that we're not pushing this further in, so you're hovering over the surface of these crayon tips. So I've just had to reach out for the forceps. You can see the pointed end here, which is probably the best part for me to grab onto, and although I wasn't able to extract it from the ear, I think I'm actually now going to use the ear hook. Let's see, because described earlier, it's very difficult to grab on with forceps when you've got something this spherical. So I'm just using the right angled ear hook, which worked really, really well here, trying to bring this forward. And although I didn't manage to extract it from the ear, I've positioned it in such a way where I can now use the microsuction tip to bring this out. So that was probably the largest tip that this patient had lodged in their ear. So still can't see the eardrum. We've got 3 more. We've got this here to the right. There is a special suction tip that has been developed with this silicone rubber tip, and with that you get supposedly get a much better suction grip.
I know these kind of videos are really popular on the internet, but I'm watching it here and it just makes me feel sick. I mean, it's making me want to scratch my ear, but I'm thinking, I can't now in case my finger falls in. I've seen a few of them now and they get the most random object stuck in their ear. It is genuinely quite impressive how they manage it.
This patient, as I said, is only 9, and it's incredible that they managed to cram all these crayon tips in their ear in the first place. So managed to get that one out. So we still got 3 more. Sorry, got this orange one. We've got one at 3 o'clock and then the purple one at 10 o'clock. With this one, the tip is towards the eardrum, so you're going to be very, very careful. One false move and this is going to go the wrong way and potentially perforate the eardrum. But so I've just brought it to the entrance. I'm just going to remove the last bit with suction. Probably see there, it is difficult to suction these types of foreign bodies because of its flat surface. This one in particular is very large, and I reached out for the right ear hook. Because of its angled nature, I was able to get good accessibility very deep in the ear, and I'm just trying to position this in between the crayon tip and the eardrum, which I managed to do. Just dragged it all the way to the entrance. Again, it's a bit tricky removing it from here, but we do succeed in the end. With this, it's just astonishing that they were able to put 5 crayon tips in such a small ear and daggers or bullets facing toward the eardrum, and there was no trauma sustained. I think the only thing that I'm missing now on my CV, so to speak, is removing an insect. I've never had the privilege or the honour. Probably in a good way, of course. We don't want patients to have creepy crawlies in their ears, but I know other specialists, particularly in the Far East, have removed maggots and spiders and insects, some of them still alive, from the ear, which we shall see if that ever occurs in my career. But to date, by far, I would say this is probably the most strangest, most bizarre procedure I've performed. And here's the still image. So, yes, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. And the moral of the story is never put anything smaller than your elbow in your ear.
I mean, that is a genuinely astonishing video for, a multitude of reasons. First of all, I mean, how impressive is that doctor? I mean, when you first look at it, you think, that's all blocked, you're never getting them out. Within, 7 or 8 minutes, he's got them all out, and it's genuinely just impressive how they can work in such a tight space with all these tools as well. I mentioned with the pliers, how sharp they are, how careful and considered he's got to be with them. He puts them in the wrong place, and he's probably deafened this lad for the rest of his life. Yeah, genuinely really impressive from the doctor, and I mean, from the young lad, fair enough he's a kid, but how do you get 5? I know I've said this, but how do you get 5 stuck in there? 1 or 2 maybe at a push, but 5 is just ridiculous, and thank God one of the parents had noticed, in doing this at school, because he could have ended up with, the doctor says he's wants them 22 hearing aids, like batteries. Can you imagine 22 of them crayon tips in there? I think he'd probably still be there getting them out right now, because it's just baffling how that happens. And, you must be able to tell that his hearing is getting worse in the one ear, but you'd think with all that blocking it would make it, kind of difficult to hear stuff. Yeah, just absolutely nuts how that happens. And I know he said, this is one of the weirdest ones he's had, but how it's kind of normalised, how he's not genuinely blown away by it. So yeah, you must see some quite odd and just weird things in people's ears. Yeah, very impressive from the doctor, and I think that kid will be staying away from crayons for the foreseeable future.